Today is new e-bike day. What we have here is the Urtopia Carbon Fusion Pro carbon fiber e-bike. It has a distinctive frame design that's relatively lightweight, and Urtopia says that this is built to ride far and tackle trails. So today let's go on a long ride, take a close look at the features and the specs, and see what it's like to live with this unique carbon fiber machine. Over the last few years, I've become a huge fan of e-bikes as they can be a fun and useful alternative to a car in many situations. You get the freedom of a bicycle, but with the extra juice when you get tired or you encounter some hills. The problem is that a lot of e-bikes are very heavy, especially fat tire e-bikes. Now this Carbon Fusion Pro comes in at 48 pounds without any accessories. It gets a little bit higher than that when you add accessories, of course. It's not the lightest e-bike that I've ever tested, but it's definitely on the lighter side. Much like the Urtopia Carbon 1 Pro that I previously reviewed, this Fusion Pro has a very striking design. They definitely wanted to give it a unique character that sets it apart from other e-bikes. So if you want something that looks a bit different, this bike might be for you. All right, so let's do a walk around and check out all of the features and specs. Now, obviously right here we have a step-through design, which I almost always prefer. It makes it so much easier to get on and off of the bike. Now, I'm 6'3" and I fit pretty well on this bike. I probably should lift up my seat a little bit higher. As you can see, the seat post is a little bit different than you might expect from a lot of bikes because this is a carbon fiber frame. It connects to the frame in a different way than you might expect with an aluminum frame bike. Now this is a one size fits most bike. Urtopia says that it fits riders from 5'3" to 6'3", but the tires are fairly large, 29 inches. So if you're on the shorter side, this might be a little bit big for you. Now this bike also comes in some other colors if you're not a fan of this bright orange. I really dig it though. Out back, we have a 500-watt hub motor, and Urtopia says it provides 1,000 watts of peak power, 60 Newton meters of torque, and we'll test out the power when we ride. Integrated into the frame is a 529 watt-hour battery, and the battery is secured with a key. Now they do also sell an optional second battery, which gets attached to the seat post right here. Urtopia says that the range of this bike is up to 75 miles, but like most e-bikes, total range can depend on a whole host of factors. How much you pedal, what the terrain's like, that kind of thing. Urtopia says that this bike has a 25 mile per hour top speed, so it's sort of beyond class 2 but below class 3, and we'll check out the speed when we ride. Payload capacity comes in at 330 pounds. As you can see, there's no real space for cargo here, but Urtopia does sell a rear rack for this bike. We've got an 8-speed Shimano gear set here, and we've got 4 pedal assist modes. This bike utilizes a torque sensor for the pedal assist, meaning it detects how hard you're pedaling in order to tell the motor how much power to apply. So we'll see what that feels like when we ride. Got a pretty interesting looking thumb throttle here on the right side. In terms of brakes, we've got hydraulic Tektro brand brakes. And let's see, how big are these rotors? They are 180 millimeters both front and rear. Out front there is a 60 millimeter suspension fork, but there's no suspension out back. Handlebars have a very nice straight across design. They are quite wide. The grips are indeed very grippy. And right here in the center is a rather small display, but I like the fact that it's small. It's kind of well protected here in this little space. We've got a headlight, a taillight, and a brake light. It has a relatively narrow seat, and we'll test out the comfort when we ride. In terms of wheels and tires, they are quite large. It says 29 inch by 2.05 inch puncture resistant tires riding on spoke wheels. And check this out, we have metal fenders both front and rear. And when it comes to notifying people of your presence, we do have a bell here. Now in terms of assembly, the bike is shipped in a large box, but thankfully it wasn't too heavy. Assembly wasn't too terribly difficult. If you can hold a wrench and have about an hour to spare, you can get everything together pretty easily. Though the bike was missing one small piece to attach the front fender, so they did have to send that to me. And this Urtopia Carbon Fusion Pro comes with a 2-year warranty. Now, if you want to buy this very unique looking carbon fiber e-bike, please use my purchase link and coupon code in the description below, but don't do that just yet. Let's first go on a ride and see how this thing does. All right, so this Urtopia Fusion Pro has a 500-watt hub motor. They say it makes 1,000 watts of peak power, 60 Newton meters of torque, so I'm curious to see how well we do off the line with just the throttle only. We're gonna bump this up to, let's see, it starts in off, eco, tour, boost, turbo mode. We're gonna go into turbo mode and see how quickly we can get off the line with this thumb throttle on the right. I'm not gonna do any pedaling, let's just see how it does. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, and we're off. 6 miles per hour, 9, 10, 11, 13. Yeah, it seems like we're gonna make it up to 20 pretty quick. Anybody need an old office chair? There's one right there. Okay, there we go, 20 miles per hour. Now let's do a brake test, see how quickly we can stop from 20 down to 0. In 3, 2, 1, stop. That's pretty good stopping power. We got these Tektro hydraulic brakes with 180 millimeter rotors front and rear. Yeah, that's pretty good stopping power. Obviously, I locked up the back there just a little bit, but modulate it a little bit and it's totally fine. So yes, you can get this up to 25 if you unlock it. It's pretty easy to do. All right, so we dialed it back to eco mode. Let's talk a little bit about pedaling. Now we have this Shimano 8-speed gear set here. Again, it's very similar to a lot of the bikes that I've tested out in the sub $2,000 price point. This is very good, shifts very nicely, very smooth. And in terms of pedal assist here, we have a torque sensor. So that means that when we pedal, it detects how hard we're pedaling and applies the amount of power based on that. Now this is in stark contrast to a cadence sensor, which kind of feels like an on-off switch. That's essentially what it is. It just gives you power when you're pedaling. And the nice thing about a torque sensor is it kind of gives you more of a natural feel, like you're riding a regular non-electric bike and somebody's just kind of pushing you along. Now we have a few different pedal assist modes. You can start with off, and that's just turning all of the power off. You gotta pedal it like a normal bike. Move it up to eco, a little bit more boost. Now we're at tour, even more. Bump it up to boost, and now we're at turbo, which gives you the full power of this motor. Yeah, and it's very smooth. The torque sensor here is very nice. I like how it works. So one thing we should talk about again is the weight here. At 48 pounds, it's relatively easy to ride this bike without electric power. So if I put this all the way down to off, kind of just feels like any other bike. It's not too hard to get this thing to move. Now that's in stark contrast to some fat tire e-bikes that I've ridden, where it just sort of feels like you're lugging around a ton of extra weight. So yeah, this is not the lightest e-bike out there, but it's nice to not have to lug around a bunch of extra weight that you don't need. Especially if you end up using all of the juice in your battery, you're gonna be glad that you're riding this and not a 100-pound behemoth. So let's put it back up to turbo mode. Shift the Shimano gear set, nice quick shifts. One of the things that I really like about a lightweight bike is very easy to maneuver. The maneuverability here is just very good. Do a quick turn here. It just feels so much more nimble than a lot of those heavier, heftier fat tire bikes. Now there's definitely a place for those big fat tire bikes. The fact that they have a lot of rubber underneath does mean a little bit of extra comfort because you've got all that rubber there, all that tire that's cushioning the ride a little bit. You don't have quite as much of that here. But the comfort is actually still pretty good here. You've got the adjustable suspension up front, no suspension out back, so I guess that's kind of the area where you're gonna feel the imperfections in the road a little bit more. Yeah, so when it comes to comfort, the things that I really like is this very straight across handlebar design. It means that your riding position is mostly upright, not too upright, not too far hunched over. It's pretty comfortable. The thumb throttle on the right is very ergonomic, very comfortable. Now this bike does seem to be positioned towards riders that want to spend some time on pavement and some time on easy dirt trails. At least that's kind of how Urtopia has marketed it. But I will say without suspension out back, I'm not sure how much time you're going to want to spend on really bumpy surfaces. You could always invest in a suspension seat, something like that. But I think the fact that it's lightweight would probably make it pretty fun to ride off-road. I don't have any really good trails right around by my house, so not gonna do any off-roading today in this video, but the tires do seem well suited for that kind of thing. So yeah, if you have a commute that requires some trail riding, or if you wanted to bring this camping with you and, you know, hit some trails, I think it would be kind of fun. All right, so more comfort things. I really like these grips. They're very grippy. Everything's very comfortable here. I'd say the seat, maybe not my favorite. It's pretty narrow, it's pretty hard, but you know, seats are a very personal thing. You might like this because it actually makes it easier to pedal. There's not a lot of seat in the way to hinder your leg movement. But personally, I could go for a little bit more cushioning back there. This also seems like it would be a really good bike to commute on. The fact that it does have suspension out front will make it a little bit less tiresome when you do hit some bumps. The fact that you can get fenders, I've got fenders front and rear here, that'll keep some of the road debris off of your clothing. You can get it with a rear rack. I definitely want to add that to this bike. Makes it a little bit more functional. Yeah, this is just a really pleasant bike to ride. You know, I tend to prefer lighter weight bikes, and I don't know if it's because this is a carbon fiber frame, but it's got a very solid, sort of well-constructed feel to it. Yeah, I really dig this thing. Now, in terms of range, that will depend a ton on how you ride, what the terrain is like, what the weather's like, how much you weigh, how much you're pedaling, what assist mode you're on. Urtopia says that this thing can do 75 miles until the battery runs out. I've ridden about 15 miles so far, and it still looks like I have a fair amount of battery left here. So, you know, it's really hard to give a sort of estimate here, as it can depend on so many different things. But my guess is if you were just doing only throttle riding, without pedaling at all, I bet you could probably go about 15, 20 miles. Obviously a lot more if you're actually pedaling. All right, so how much does all of this cost you? The Urtopia Carbon Fusion Pro lightweight carbon fiber e-bike comes in at $1,999. It's certainly not an inexpensive bike, but you have to remember that carbon fiber bikes are generally a step up from aluminum frame bikes. And you do get some name brand components, Shimano, Tektro, that you might not find on a budget e-bike. So when it comes down to it, I like the fact that this is a very unique looking bike. If you're into that kind of thing, this is a pretty good choice. It's got a nice step through frame, makes it easy to get on and off of. I think the torque sensor works really well. So yeah, given the price, this bike isn't going to be for everyone, but if you value the benefits of carbon fiber, good components, and the very distinctive styling, this bike could be a good option. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Now, if you want to buy this e-bike, please use my purchase link and coupon code in the description below. It will save you some money. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you're well, and I'll see you soon.